Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to be talking about some poker situations, poker hands, and these 4 poker tools that I think are really good for you to include into your study session. Because you can't just be playing only, you got to be studying as much too, analyzing different situations, the probability, and what are the bets that are acceptable and what are bets you should reject in those situations if your opponent decides to put you there. So we're going to be covering some stuff today. This may look like a lot. I may have to move this a little, just a tad bit. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Get in there. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We're all friends. Yeah. So I got 4 different windows here. This is hand history from a hand history window from a hand that I've saved in PokerTracker. As you can see, that this right here. Sorry, I was circling that thing. And then there's another one, Notepad. I just have a few basic mathematical formulas that you can apply to certain situations in your poker game. And it's good to use these and go through certain situations and apply these formulas. It's tough to do it in the game unless you're like a savant and you can, or Rain Man. But if you're pretty good at math and you practice enough, you can get decent at it. So this over here is called Combonator. Combonator? Combinatorics, Combinametrics, Combonator. Combinator. Love it. So this essentially, this range that I've picked. So this is pre-flop. I picked this range is about 50% range. So that's the range that I am applying to my opponent in this situation, in this hand history. And so essentially in PokerTracker, I'll just show this really quick before I go on, because I think it's important. So you can go to your window where you player summary, where you can essentially see all the other players you've played. This guy in the hand that I'm analyzing is Dr. Rusty, I think it is. Dr. Rusty, Rusty Trumbo. Or Dr. James. Oh, close enough. Must have Dr. Rusty James. I think that's it. Yeah, Dr. James, 27. Sorry, buddy, about talking about your game, but it is what it is. So looking at this guy, where the frig is he? Blue. So he plays a VPIP of 52%. So that means he's putting money into the pot 52% of the time. So he's pretty loose. I can take advantage of him. And he doesn't raise pre-flop. Also, when you have a really low pre-flop raise like that, it means you probably don't raise very often, period. You're only raising if you have the nuts or you have a really good hand. And really bad players will just bet it right away, and decent players will check it and wait for you to bet and then just set a trap, essentially. So this guy being 52 and 40, he's loose and he's passive player. It's a lap, I'd say. Or a loop. Yeah, a loop. I like loop. It's a little acting a little loopy, there, bud. So essentially, that's the guy we're focusing on. So one tool I'm going to show you now, because it can be tough kind of reading this. You got to get used to it over time, just the format of this. So essentially what you can do is you can go to hand history. You can probably do Control A. Yeah, that selects all, Control A. And then you Control C, copy it. And then here's a website. I will post this at the bottom in the info at the end of the video. Where is that guy? Here we go. You can see my tabs. I'm watching the Olympics. So we're going to play this. I've already uploaded the hand. So that's me on the left. I'm going to pause it. So we go move by move. So there's small blind, big blind. The under the gun folds. The hijack folds. The cutoff folds. So it's heads up. So I like this. So I'm going to put some money in the pot. And I'm going to try to essentially, yeah, put some pressure on these guys. Typically, they have pretty loose hands, but if they call, they'll have a decent hand, I think. So, the next one, I bet 3 big blinds. I call the 2, raise 4, and then this guy folds. So now it's a heads up. Sorry, I said heads up prematurely. That tends to be my style. So Dr. James now, he calls. So when he calls, I'm thinking that he probably has something decent, something in the top 10% range, I would say. So we're going to go to the next. The flop comes, pot's 13 cents. Flop comes Queen Jack 4, 2 diamonds. So we'll see the next move he does. He bets. So what just happened is what this called is a donk bet. But I don't know if he didn't limp. He was the big blind, so all he had to do was check, or he already had the pass. He didn't raise me, so his pre-flop, so his hand couldn't be incredible. But I'm thinking he has something like king queen, ace queen, even ace king, or something suited with the diamonds. So either he's drawing to a straight or he's drawing to a flush, and that's why he's donk betting me, or he just has some. Typically a donk bet hand is like a 4-5 suited or a 6-5 suited, or but that's when the texture of the board is a lot lower. This is a high board, so I think he had a high hand. He has a drawing thing and he's bluffing. He does, or semi bluffing. He hasn't hit his hand yet. But so this is the situation. We're going to finish playing it through, and then I'm going to explain it in the software, using the software tools. So then a king comes, he bets all in, and I say, F that. So now we're going to analyze the situations, the maths. We're going to see if, based mathematically and using the theory, what the best strategy would have been. And then I'll explain why I made my decisions and thought that was the best strategy, at least while I was applying statistics using from PokerTracker, knowing that this guy plays a 52% range. I wish that range was a little, sorry, his data. I've only played 26 hands. So a law of large numbers, as I tend to say. I wish I had, for normal distribution, to apply a sample size average to a population. Typically, you want like 30, I think the rule is, or something like that. There's other rules like no multi-collinearity and all these other things in your, if you take statistics ever. So yeah. So now we're gonna go through the software. So I folded that hand, and I ended up giving him only, well, not I gave him 6 cents. That's fine. But I had potential. I had a jack. That's why I was considering maybe calling. But we're going to go through all the hands and why I did what I did. All right. So this software right here, Combonator. No, it doesn't go big. All right. We're just going to have to deal with this size. Look in the center, though. So everything that's yellow is what I think is his assigned range, essentially. Because this is about 50% of the hands. His is 52, but I'll say he's playing 50% of the hands. And these are the 50% of the best, most commonly played hands, essentially. Not most commonly, but the best hands. The top 50%. So I assign that there, and then we go post flop. Oh shoot, first we'll do something pre-flop. So I'll go over to Equilab, and we can analyze things pre-flop. So essentially right now, I was button in the situation, BU, and he was big blind. So this range, all this yellow stuff, I've copied and assigned to this, okay? And then my card is Jack of Clubs and 9 of Spades. So using the evaluator, it's giving me pre-flop. I haven't included any of the flop yet. This isn't ticked. If I tick that, it changes once I press evaluate. But for now, it's showing I have a 42% chance of winning. I didn't have to call in this situation. I bet, and then he had to call pre-flop. But Jack 9 is a decent hand. I was on the button, so I thought I was like, I'll take a shot at it. It's at the lower part of my button range, but hey. So we run that 42%. So in that situation, I called full piss and bullets, raised 3-3. He calls 2. And then, yeah, so essentially this flop comes. So now we're going to include the flop. And it's queen 4 jack. So I have underpair, which is jacks. So what I'm about to show you is all the hands that he could have within his range that could beat me. But all the brown ones are labeled essentially the ones where he's beating me right now. So I have pair jacks. So pocket aces, he'd still be beating me. Pocket kings, he'd still be beating me. Pocket queens, he'd still be beating me. Pocket jacks, he'd be beating me with a set. He'd have 3s. JT suited, he'd be beating me. Even Jack 9 suited, he'd be beating me. I have Jack 9, but mine's not suited. So theoretically, the percentage, he'd be ahead of me by a bit. If it was diamonds, especially. If it was diamonds or if it was hearts, it would have some equity. So all of those are the ones in green are ones where he has draws. He either has flush draws or straight draws. I could add. I should also even maybe add ace 4 is decent if it's the club, but I'd have to half it. I'd have to do not that, just the diamonds. And this adds to the combination. So this statistic here, essentially, oh, well, here, we'll go back to pre-flop. So this 48% have been chosen. 48% down there, 49%, which is almost 50, is in yellow. And then this, based on the ones I selected, so the entire range is 660. And then the grouped, so the ones of 1 and 2, the ones that are brownie, beige, and green, essentially have, there's 46% of that. So that, for this next decision, post-flop, I essentially can use these to determine my probability of winning, essentially. So here, my probability, using this method 1, which is the combinatorics and analyzing his starting range and now the range of all the hands that could beat me, that are beating me now and could beat me post in the next streets on the turn of the river. Essentially, I have a 53.5% chance of winning this, which is pretty good. Not bad. Oh, I realized I fucked up my math. 53. And so there's this formula here, pot odds. You take your win percentage has to be greater than the pot odds, which is the call amount divided by pot plus bet amount plus call amount. So during the flop, which is right now, essentially, my outs, I did it up here, the rule of 2 or 4, essentially, for each street or free card, you get 2% for every out. So in my example, there's 2 jacks and there's 3 nines, giving me 5 outs times 2% times 2 is 20%. So in this situation, my win percent is 20%. Is that greater than 0.33, which is 6.5 divided by 19.5? And the answer is no. Therefore, that decision I made, the 6.5 to call, actually was a little, I should have gone smaller on my bet, essentially, because the bet size in proportion to how much was already in the pot would be a lot smaller, and therefore the percentage would be smaller, because I want my equity or win percentage to be greater than the pot odds that they're giving me. So essentially, that was a bad decision, the first bad decision. The second thing now is the turn. And the turn, one way of calculating, like I was just talking about, is this way, using the Combonator, and then the other way is using Equilab. So I'll share links on all these tools, and it's good to apply and analyze the situations and where you went right and wrong. So now I'll apply this, and we'll see how the equity changed. So I'm turning on the flop. Equity. All right, now it's giving me a 62% chance of beating his entire range. But if we want to consider what my probability of winning of beating this range of hands that beat me, then we'll switch over to this and we'll do evaluate. And he actually has the edge with these winning hands. Of course, that makes sense. You know, the hands that would be beating me, of course, will have more equity with just that range. And here I can show you the range this way. So pop that button, this shows up, and that's the exact same range of all of those that are filled in. Except for ace 4, I'll fill that in too. Let's give me a bit of false equity. But yeah, that decreases. Oh wait, because that hand doesn't beat me right now. It couldn't have. Oh yeah, see? So that's why it went down. So actually I'll get rid of that. But yeah, it's not perfect, but it's good to fool around and tinker and figure out what works. So now that I've calculated the equity, in the main situation, I gave myself so this is showing me now that I would have 62% chance against this range. I used to be show something. Oh shit, what did I do? Oh, brutal. Oh well, so I'll show you. You can just click and put these back on. No problem. See, it was all jacks. Shoot, anyways. But yeah, for my situation, we'll say, so actually the chance of me winning was 62 in this Equilab analysis that I just did. I accidentally removed those. I'll have to click them. I don't want to waste your time. So 62%. And then the other method we got was, 53. Yeah, 53. And after these calculations, the bet here was 80 big blinds. He was betting to me, raising me after he went all in. And then after I put in my money, which is the bet, calling the bet amount, and then the pot amount, we got 0.45. So that is less than. So I should have, based on this theory, I should have called, right? The reason I didn't call, like I said at the beginning, that statistic he had, he barely raises, and he raised me all in, all right? So where's that statistic? 52%, and he barely raises. He plays a lot of hand, doesn't raise. But this hand, he decided, I know it's post-flop, but he raised big time. So that's indicating to me, either he bluffed me hard, either he bluffed me hard, which is possible. Maybe a king came, and I think he had like a king queen. He had 2 pair, and he saw all this other like fake potential. You know, he could fake me out and be like, make me think that he has drawing to diamonds, drawing to hearts. Now that the king comes, if he has an ace 10, that's another hand that would crush me. Ace 10 suited, if he just had a 10 even. Now he's drawing on the 3rd street at the river to an ace or a 9. And it's, yeah, with an open-ended straight draw. It's pretty, it makes it uncomfortable. And he, based on his behavior and using those statistics from PokerTracker, I would guess that he would only be raising like that ridiculously if he had the nuts, or if he was just trying to really scare me with a bluff, but he still had a decent hand. It was a semi-bluff. So I think he could have had like a king 10, maybe isn't even a hand he might have had, because then he'd have the open-ended straight draw, plus he'd have top pair. So yeah, that's my overall analysis on that. I made those decisions, and those are the 4 tools and how you can utilize the PokerTracker hand history, the simulator hand visualizer at Cards Chat, and using Combonator and Equilab from PokerStrategy.com, which is a great website for education. And yeah, I'll also post these formulas. If you want to try to go through this yourself and try it with your own hand, I highly suggest it. You'll get better and better each time you do it. All right, guys, thanks for listening. I talked really fast there at the end, but it happens. That's just the way my mouth works at a regular speed. All right, take care. Bye.